You touch on kindness and empathy for creating healthy work environments. And you created this incredible Viking funeral for regrets. And, I recall you sharing that the day after the Viking funeral, that you were really moved. You were moved to tears. It was emotional for you. How people had really identified, as much of a crazy, big, fun, audacious idea it was, that people really plugged in on an authentic level, and they put to bed regrets. They said goodbye. They completed things that were open wounds or unfinished business, things that were incompleteness in their life. And, you kind of taken that forward with kindness and empathy. Land that plane for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is a great example of a lot of the stuff we've been talking about constraints, but also about the creative process. I think that oftentimes one of the things that I like to do as an artist is to sort of pull the curtain back and show people what the creative process is and how it works and how messy it is and how indirect it is. Because I think oftentimes people see a finished product and they go, oh my gosh, I could never make that. And they don't see how jaggedy and curvy and weird the path was to get from point A to point B. And so the project that you're talking about started 8 years ago when I was about to turn 30 years old. I'm 38 now. And so when I was about to turn 30, I was trying to think like, okay, this is a big, this is a birthday that ends in a zero. You only get a few of these in your lifetime. Like, what should I do to celebrate this? And how can I make this a big thing? And I was sort of joking around that, I don't really want to have a party to celebrate turning 30. Like, I want to have a funeral for the death of my 20s. And then I was like, well, that's kind of morbid. And my mom was like, that's weird. What, are you going to have a coffin and have people give your gifts in the coffin? Like, and I was like, no. Like, I'll do a Viking funeral. And it just started as a joke. And I was like, oh, and I've done a lot of art with cardboard in the past. And so I was like, I could build a big Viking ship out of cardboard and put some big letters and numbers inside that say, my 20s or whatever. And then I could set the whole thing on fire. That's what you do with the Viking funeral. You set a ship on fire.
Cardboard is the preferred material of elementary school artists. So just so that
that's true. That's true. And it also burns really well. So I did that. And that was all that idea was ever supposed to be, was a dumb birthday party. And then some friends of mine came and interviewed me. They're a videography and video production company. And they were like, hey, let us make a little 3-minute mini documentary about this. And so they interviewed me and we made this thing. And in that interview, they asked me, are you going to be sad to burn this thing that you've worked so hard on? Because it was 8 feet tall. It was 16 feet long and it was very ornate. It had thousands of little scales that were glued on. And I said, no, you have to let go.
It was a dragon, right? It was a dragon.
Yeah, it was a Viking dragon boat and had a head and a tail. And it was there's pictures of it online. I think that when people think of a Viking ship or of a cardboard dragon ship, they think it's going to be very crude. It was very ornate and I worked really hard on it. And so my friends asked me, are you going to be sad to burn this thing? And I said, no, you have to let go of the past to make room for things in the future. And somehow that part of the video just seemed to really impact people. When it went out on the internet and it started getting shared and spread. And I started getting emails from people saying, man, your weird birthday party thing kind of made me tear up, or it impacted me in some way. And you know what? I've got some stuff I want to let go of. I've got some stuff I want to put in the past. And then they would always say at the end of their email, they'd be like, just wish I could do it with a cool Viking funeral. And so I got one of these emails, and then I got 2 of these emails, and then I got a dozen of these emails. And I was a year later, I'm still getting these emails. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. All these people are saying the same thing, and they're all saying, I've got stuff I want to let go of. I just, I wish I had a Viking funeral. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if that would make it easier, let's do one more. And so I just asked people, write down the thing that you want to let go of and send it to me, and I'll put it in a Viking ship and set it on fire. And again, that was never what it started as a birthday party. And then the other people brought their thoughts and desires to this. And I was, okay, well then that shaped the whole outcome. And then I ended up, it was so much bigger of a success than I ever thought. I was trying, my goal was, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could get 10,000 regrets? And I got over 21,000 regrets. And they came in multiple different languages, shipped in from all over the world. Sometimes I would get one note card with a regret on it. And sometimes I would get a package of 100 or 1,000, a whole school would do it together, or a fraternity, or a whole dorm room, or an Alcoholics Anonymous group. It were all of these different things. And then I built the second ship was 16 feet tall. It was 30 feet long. It was this massive thing. And then I put all the regrets into that, and I had a Viking funeral for the people that we used to be. Right? Like I don't want to be this person anymore. That's who I used to be. I'm trying to lay that person to rest so I can become the person I'm meant to be. And people tuned in from all over the world to watch the live stream of this, and it was just this really profound moment. The project, there was all these ups and downs. I wrote all about this in the book, but it took longer than I thought. It was harder than I thought. And I wanted to give up so many times. But in that moment, like when the ship started to burn, that's when I just broke down. I just was like all of these emotions. And then in the comments, while people were watching the live stream, there were all these people who had never met before who connected over this project. And they were all talking about how ever since they sent in their regret, they had been waiting for this moment, and they've been waiting to watch this whole thing go up. And it was so cool. At one point, somebody wrote, to moving on. And then someone else wrote to moving on. It became this cheer that was just like all these people filling up the chat with this thing. And it was just it was a really, really cool experience. And this thing that was, ultimately symbolic, like putting a note card in a ship doesn't make your problems go away, but it did really seem to have real meaning and significance for thousands of people all over the world.
Yeah, and they had the experience of putting the past in the past, and like you said, you do that, you make room for new things, you make room for a new future, new possibilities, and I think at the heart of it, that's what people were really tuning into.
Yeah,
that having that experience, and I can imagine that must have been something that really woke you up to the power of this bold and audacious idea.
Yeah, and I think it just showed me once again that you never know where your ideas are going to land, and that's been a theme in my work over and over and over again. And I'm always on stage talking to people about you have no idea what's possible for your life, and I have no idea what's possible for your life or for my life or for anyone else's. Like so many times, I'll go after a project and I'll think, okay, best case scenario will land here, and worst case scenario will land here. And we almost never land anywhere in that window that I thought. It's always way better than I thought, or way worse than I thought, or just it'll land somewhere that's completely outside of where I could have ever imagined. And so I always think, man, you should just try it because you never know. And when you chase your crazy ideas, like this thing that started out as this silly, honestly, kind of self-indulgent birthday party, like, let me do this big, dumb Viking funeral for my 20s, became this thing that was able to provide, meaning and comfort and a moment for people all over the world. I would have never envisioned that. And I would imagine there are people who will watch this and they think, oh, I've got this little idea and man, it'll probably never be anything. It will definitely never be anything if that's what it stays. But if you pull it out and actually have the courage and the boldness to go, I'm going to try this thing, you have no idea where that thing could land.
Yeah.